What if Harley Davidson was a person who had its own personal brand and wasn't a faceless, publicly traded company? What would that person look like?
Would they look like you or me? Would they resemble a typical Harley rider who, according to recent information released by Harley Davidson, is 45, predominantly male, and Caucasian? What would their political affiliation be? Conservative, Republican, Independent, Democrat, Libertarian? Would we even know? What would their sexual orientation be? Heterosexual, gay, lesbian, transsexual, or perhaps pansexual, catering to all genders? Or as the hipsters call it today, being gender fluid? Or would we even know? Could we even tell? Would it even matter? What if all that mattered was their actions, the motorcycles they produced, how they interacted with us at rallies, how we were treated in their dealerships when making transactions for motorcycles and parts? I don't know what the sexual orientations and political affiliations were for the Davidson brothers and William Harley back in the day, but I do know that the Davidsons had 2 grandsons that went on to work for the company. One of them helped return the company back to its people in 1982, and he designed motorcycles that are still being produced today, and another grandson who still draws a paycheck while working at the Harley Davidson Museum. What if Harley didn't go public back in 1987 and stayed under the private equity firm led by Willie G. Davidson? Would another private equity firm have bought them out? Perhaps we'd be reminiscing about the glory days of the bar and shield as we all write a brand name imprinted on the tanks that says Harley Davidson, but mounted in the frame as a Chinese-made V-twin motor based on the last greatest motor Harley ever built, the 80 cubic inch Evolution engine. But Harley isn't a person. It's a publicly traded company with a board of directors that includes the president of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Alan Goldston, who he and his spouse Stephen raised 2 children and are very philanthropic. Former Starbucks CEO Troy Alstead, former Viacom MTV executive Sarah Levinson, and the current president and CEO of the Ford Motor Company. No wonder they got that fast Johnny paint scheme to match the Shelby Cobra blue color so well. This board of far left-leaning aristocrats is led by their chairman and Harley Davidson's current CEO, Jochen Zeitz, a German national businessman working in the United States, whose claim to business acclaim was turning around the shoe company Puma. Then, using his accumulated wealth built during his time at Puma, he was able to buy himself onto the Harley Davidson board back in 2007. Then in 2020, he assumed a temporary CEO role, outing then-CEO Matt Levitage, who Jochen Zeitz groomed during the 2010s. After a few months as temporary CEO, he quietly appointed himself as permanent CEO. Many of the newer board members Zeitz had a hand in selecting, and many longtime board members are his friends. In fact, they've invested in Zeitz's personal projects through the years, including the opening of an art museum in the continent that he calls his primary residence, Africa. He owns 50,000 acres there, and reports that it's his favorite spot on Earth. Zeitz has been a conservationist since his childhood, where his parents owned a cabin and often visited for retreats. He loved the outdoors and the views of nature that the family property afforded him. He was raised amongst a family of medical professionals. His upbringing was clearly rooted in science, as reported in this Financial Times interview, where he said he's not a faith-based individual. He doesn't believe in God. He invests in nature and humanity. But while in school, he decided to take a few business classes while attending university, and that was enough for him to decide to switch directions from the family business of science and medicine toward a career in the science of business. Graduating in 1986, he went to work for Procter & Gamble in their marketing department, creating household good campaigns, splitting time between New York and Hamburg, Germany. It was in Hamburg when he was headhunted by a member of the Puma board to come in as a marketing department head at the age of 28, with the clear understanding that if he showed initiative and results, he'd be installed as the CEO for the failing shoe manufacturer. Puma was bleeding money left and right at the time. A couple years later, shortly after his 30th birthday, he was installed as CEO. And by the time he was done at Puma, he was a hero. The company was profitable and its culture satisfied the board of directors. This was the recognition that allowed Zeitz to plow the seeds of sustainability through conserving of resources and introduce his diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum throughout the Puma organization. Later, his strategies would even be more profitable as he packaged these ideals for corporations all over the world to consume under his alignment with Sir Richard Branson and the formation of their B Team, a consulting enterprise championing these now often heard catchphrases DEI and ESG. Eventually, these objectives replaced traditional metrics of evaluating a company's health, and now these same metrics are in use by most investment fund firms to determine how healthy a company truly is and if they're worthy of an investment. Concurrently, while on the Harley board in the 2010s, Zeitz was able to consult for other companies and show them the ways of the sustainability Taliban. His words. Seriously, his words.
And my today good friend and CEO from Gucci called me the sustainable Taliban when I tried to convince him that Gucci should actually be also about sustainability.
Spreading the word of ESG and DEI all over the globe. At the same time, he was also grooming then Harley Davidson CEO Matt Levitage on the sustainability of Harley Davidson into a future of electric motorcycles. Then when the income and profits started to dip, and in the wake of bad press over HD initiatives of producing motorcycles in India for the Pan-Asian markets, Zeitz took over for Levitage, and 4 years later, here we are.
A company accused of going woke, daily users of ESG and DEI tools for social compliance, promoting social concerns that including support for gender identities, diversity, and inclusion.
As thousands of bikers descend on Sturgis, South Dakota for the annual motorcycle rally, iconic bike brand Harley Davidson is facing some backlash. A conservative activist named Robbie Starbuck is claiming that the rough and tough American company is going woke and says the new CEO is pushing the company to embrace DEI initiatives and progressive policies. His post even catching the attention of Elon Musk, who wrote on X, quote, doesn't sound super compatible with their customers.
If Harley must identify itself as a sexual orientation, it would clearly be pansexual. Not because of the panhead engine, but because all companies are pansexual. They have to be. If you're not familiar with the term pansexual, the Oxford Dictionary defines it as attraction to people regardless of their sex or gender. That's interesting. I thought sex and gender were the same. Well, apparently, while we've been working on our jobs and raising our families over the past 20 years, they've gone and changed things on us. Sex is a biological construct based on how you were born, and gender is a social construct based on how you identify. And this, folks, is what everyone is up in arms about socially, and the crux of the DEI and ESG movement within the corporate environment. As a company that produces goods, Harley Davidson must cater to everyone. If aliens bought motorcycles, they'd have to be inclusive of these little green men. All that companies care about is cash flow sustainability and profit for their shareholders. How they get there changes with the decades and the fashions of the time. But in the end, if the money is not coming in, you're not going to exist.
Companies have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to do what is right for the company. Making money, being loyal to their customers, helping shareholders make money, give them good guidance for what the future looks like, right? When inflation is high and your customers are struggling, that's not the time to go woke.
And Harley is already showing signs of salvaging profit. They are moving all production for their RevMax engine products. That's the Pan America, the Sportster S, and the Snakester. To Thailand for production. The land of milk, honey, and ladyboys will be making Motorcyclist Magazine's ADV Bike of the Year, the Pan America, in Thailand, and then importing them back into the United States for dealers to sell. Under the previous CEO, Harley vowed not to export manufacturing jobs for bikes to be sold in the U.S. Then a couple months ago, Zeitz renegotiated with the labor union, gave them what they wanted, and in return took away the work to make the RevMax bikes. With the current economy as it is, and dealers still trying to sell off 2023 inventory with huge incentives, do you think Zeitz promised no hours will be lost to the workers when renegotiating the labor contract? Did he promise the labor union that he'll ramp up more production of its core products so union members will be guaranteed their 40-hour work week throughout 2025? Maybe, but I wouldn't take that bet. Look for plant manufacturing to pause for 2 weeks at the end of the fourth quarter in 2025, so Harley can put a Band-Aid on the bleeding. We saw what they did last year in the fourth quarter to keep the workers busy. They manufactured and pre-shipped 2024 carryover models. Carryover models are the bikes that have no changes to the unit except for paint and color. Harley Davidson is doing some good these days. They just launched an initiative to get students involved in the repair of motorcycles in a school program called Build Moto. So that's something positive. But why dwell on the positive when the negative is so juicy to discuss? For the past 2 weeks, I couldn't navigate YouTube without seeing posts about how HD is going woke. We had some of these posts last year by folks who routinely post about the motorcycle industry, but nothing in comparison to this year. And we can thank this latest round of attention given to Harley Davidson being woke to a blogger named Robbie Starbuck, who uses Twitter to report on woke companies. He spearheaded last year's outing of Bud Light and most recently alerted the public to Tractor Supply and John Deere as having their employees participate in sensitivity training for veteran executives and embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion so those companies can benefit with increased ESG scores and therefore secure investment monies from big funds like BlackRock and Vanguard. Those big funds have investments in Harley Davidson too. In fact, the majority of shares in Harley Davidson are held by funds. Only a single-digit percentage of the overall shares are held by individuals like you and me. Starbuck reported that Harley Davidson employees had to go through the same sensitivity training, and hiring practices have gone from the best qualified candidate to HR having to find a three-legged non-binary hermaphrodite so that box can get checked for the hedge fund ESG score watchers. In addition, it's reported that Harley's involvement with the Pride rides has raised eyebrows. To me, that's not an issue at all. Harley supports all types of rides for all types of riders. Like I said, if they have to incorporate social sexual identity, it's pansexual, rider fluid. Heck, their latest slogan is United We Ride. So let's ride. Mass market mainstream vloggers were reporting empty booths at Sturgis this year for Harley, similar to last year with the empty booths at Bud Light. But to Harley's defense, rallygoers are out enjoying the food, beer, and running downtown Main Street and throughout the Black Hills, rather than visiting the HD booth to check out new bikes. Local news outlets reported motorcycle traffic coming into Sturgis was down 5% this year compared to previous years. It's been reported that Harley hasn't posted on Twitter since July, Twitter being the most cantankerous of all the social media platforms out there. On Instagram, Harley has been deleting posts that mention anything about their wokeness. In the Sturgis 2024 group on Facebook, riders report that Harley has legal department folks in the booth asking random visitors if they are aware of the recent social media posts regarding Harley Davidson about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then last week, Harley released a memo to its employees stating that policies are under review and we'll let you know what we come up with. The Facebook forums are full of posts by Harley customers explaining, hey, what about us? Why don't you care about your policies and how they appear to customers? We don't want Harley to be associated with these social issues. Just go back to making motorcycles of quality and heritage. I can't expect folks like Robbie Starbuck and the host of other flyby vloggers and reporters that don't live in the motorcycle and Harley space like I do understand that we've known about these changes occurring at HD since 2020. It's nothing new to me, but what I am disappointed in is their lack of diligence in reporting on the depths of how far HD is in the ESG DEI hole. I mean, I can't be the one breaking this news. I'm nobody. I'm just a lover of Harley Davidson motorcycles and enjoy riding them. But Robbie Starbuck found the head of the ESG DEI snake. And ladies and gentlemen, it's Jochen Zeitz. He's responsible for the change of the brand culture within Harley. And now as the virtual pansexual flag gets raised at Harley headquarters, that liberal culture will seep its goo into the marketplace. And in a few years, we'll be left with a neutered motorcycle company that doesn't resemble anything about the Harley Davidson riding experience that we've come to love and cherish. Soon, we'll be riding on bikes that won't look or sound anything like those that we have come to enjoy. I'm Kenny Quest. Thanks for watching. If you like Harley Davidson products, the Harley Davidson lifestyle, follow my channel, where I embark on a journey of a lifetime, diving headfirst into motorcycle culture, modifying my Harley Davidson motorcycles, traveling, and having a good time. If you like my vibe, I encourage you to subscribe. See you next time.